AI, AI, AI. It's like everybody's talking about it, But it's also like kind of stuck, I think. At least that's how it feels sometimes. Like you mentioned using AI, like even just for something small, like, oh, maybe we could use AI to help with project deadlines. And suddenly, boom, everyone's talking about robots taking over the world.
Yeah, definitely. It's like we're surrounded by this AI hype.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes it really hard to see past, all that noise to what AI can actually do for businesses right now, especially when it comes to those less obvious, less talked about uses of AI. That's what I'm interested in.
Right. And that's exactly why I'm so pumped to be like really digging into Ben Krusnak's work today. He's doing some super cool stuff as a strategic AI consultant.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciate is that he actually helps businesses like actually use AI,
Yeah,
not just theorize about it. It's about getting those practical solutions up and running.
totally. And what's interesting is Kreisner's upfront about the fact that it's not always easy. Even just on his website, like he's not afraid to say, hey, the AI world is crowded and it's complicated, which I appreciate.
Totally. And he's not just trying to build the next big, viral chatbot. He's like way more into this idea of the underrated potential of AI, which really got me thinking. Like on his website, he lists his areas of expertise, right? And he lists things like data analysis, pattern recognition, and decision making, which, like, don't get me wrong, those are important,
Yeah.
but they don't exactly scream sexy tech buzzwords.
Right.
But here's the thing. Kreisner makes this connection that every business, like literally every business, no matter what you're doing, you're dealing with those three things every single day.
Exactly. And that's what I think is so important for people to realize. Like, at their core, so many business challenges and opportunities come down to those three things.
Yeah.
How you're using data, recognizing patterns, and then using those insights to make decisions.
It's like he's saying, if you think AI is just for those big tech companies, think again.
Yeah. And he has some really interesting examples of this in action across all different types of industries, which I think would be cool to get into.
So let's talk examples, because I feel like this is where it went from interesting to like, whoa, for me. Like when I actually saw what Cernak's been doing, the industries he's been working in, like, wow, there's this whole section on his site with all these past projects, and it's not what you expect.
It really highlights, I think, how AI can be used in, like, any industry. It's about being creative.
Totally. Like health of AI,
Mm.
healthcare, using AI to change the entire patient experience. Imagine like scheduling appointments, dealing with medical bills, even just communicating with your doctor's office in a more personalized way,
Mm.
all powered by AI.
Right. And then you've got Hypeless, which is using conversational AI, but for mental health support.
Yeah.
They have this chatbot, Anna, and they actually gave her like a personality.
Okay, so I have to ask about that because why? Why even bother? It's not a real person.
Well, humans, right. Like
Yeah.
we want to connect with something, even if it's just through our phones. And Cernak talks about how a persona, even if it's AI, can really help people open up, especially when you're talking about something like mental health, where people might already be a little hesitant.
Right, totally, because it feels less clinical, I guess.
Exactly. More human, more welcoming, like you can design that experience even in the digital world.
And it's not just about making people feel better, right? Sunak actually says that giving an AI a personality can make it, like, more effective, which, I don't know, I thought that was interesting.
Totally. Think about it. It's still communication,
Yeah.
even with AI. And when you're communicating, you have to know your audience, right?
Yeah.
So if using a specific persona helps you reach those people, why not?
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got healthcare, mental health, and then commercial real estate.
Yeah.
That one threw me for a loop. Like, really?
Right. It's not
Mhm.
the first thing you think of, but it proves, I think, that any field, even one that seems really niche, can benefit from AI.
And he breaks it down, like, really clearly. It's analyzing the market, figuring out property values, finding those deals that you wouldn't otherwise find. He even calls it, like, AI-driven commercial property intelligence, which, okay, the name needs some work.
Right. But you get the idea.
But it's such a good example of, like, looking past what's obvious and finding those hidden patterns, which I think that's what I like about how Cernak approaches this whole thing. He's not just saying, hey, AI is cool, everyone do it. It's more like he's giving you the tools to actually use AI in a way that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready for this one. AI and Shiver.
Plastic surgery.
Okay, that one I still don't, like, fully grasp.
It does sound very science fiction-y.
It does.
But think about it. Surgeons can use AI to look at photos, predict what a procedure might look like, even create those after images.
See, and that's what gets me. It's not just about automating. It's about using AI to, like, expand how we think, how we make decisions. And that honestly takes us back to those three core areas Kazarnik was talking about. Data analysis, pattern recognition.
Decision making. Yep. It all connects.
Exactly. And I think it would be interesting to, bring this back to our listeners for a second. Think about your work, whatever it is you do. What kind of information, what kind of patterns are already there, just hiding, waiting for you to, unlock them with AI?
Okay, so we've seen what AI can do, and it's pretty amazing. But now I'm thinking, like, how do we actually use it? I mean, I'm not running a tech giant here. How do normal businesses get started with AI?
I think that's the question, right? Because so much of the AI conversation is like the big abstract thing.
Yeah.
But Kriesnarek actually gives some really practical advice,
Mm.
which makes sense because he's actually worked with companies on this stuff.
Yeah, and it's all there on his website, right? Like he has that whole what you will learn section. And it's almost like he's anticipating those questions. Okay, I'm interested in AI, but where do I even start?
Exactly. And he's big on starting small.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to go all in on AI right away.
It's more like dip your toes in first. Don't just jump in the deep end.
Yeah, exactly. Like, pick one thing, one area where you think AI could make a difference. Maybe it's automating some reports that are taking up everyone's time, or finding a way to make your marketing emails feel more personal. You start with a pilot project, get a win, then you can build from there.
That feels so much less intimidating, right? Because then it's not this big, scary technology overhaul. And he talks about this too, right? Like making sure you're using AI in the right places.
Absolutely. AI for the sake of AI is never the goal. It has to make sense for your business and for the problem you're trying to solve.
And this is where, again, having someone like Cernak with that real world experience is so valuable, right? He has all these great examples. Like if you're in manufacturing, you can use AI to predict when your equipment needs maintenance so you can avoid downtime. Or if you're in customer service, you could have an AI chatbot answer those basic questions so your human agents can focus on the more complicated stuff.
Right. It's about working smarter, not just harder. And I think a lot of people worry about AI replacing jobs.
Yeah.
But Chris Anak's very clear about the ethical side of AI
Yeah.
and making sure humans are still a part of the
Yeah.
process.
Which I really appreciate because it's easy to get caught up in those robots are taking over narratives.
Right. But Cernak's more about how can AI make us better?
Like AI giving us superpowers. I like that.
Exactly. He talks about giving your team the training and the tools they need to actually work with AI.
Yeah.
Because when you combine human skills like creativity and problem solving with what AI can do, that's where the real magic happens.
And it made me think about something else Chris Cernak said. AI adoption is a journey, not a destination.
Definitely. You're constantly learning, changing, adapting.
Yeah.
Because AI itself is always changing.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Chris Cernak actually encourages businesses to reach out to him, get guidance, which I think says a lot about his approach. It's not just a one-time thing.
He's invested in making sure you succeed with AI, which, again, I think is what I keep coming back to with Chris Cernak. It's not just about the technology. It's about using it in a way that makes sense for you, for your business, for the problems you're facing. And I think that's a great note to end on, actually, because as we wrap up our deep dive into Ben Cernak's work, I think the biggest takeaway is don't be afraid to get creative with AI. Challenge your assumptions about what it can do, and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way. Because, like Cernak shows us, the future of AI isn't about replacing humans. It's about what we can achieve together.